It seems like every Transformer fan I know either had a buddy or a brother that still brags about owning the G1 Jetfire to this day, and them talking about how cool that figure was. We're going to talk about the figures that define generations for all fans, coming up right now on Transformers Talk Raw. Thanks for coming back and listening to another TTRP. That's a Transformers Talk Raw podcast on YouTube and Spotify. However you're coming in, whether at Spotify or YouTube, make sure you give us a like and follow us. Either sub or just follow us on Spotify there. Or you can help support the channel further if you want to go that way by checking out all those great links in the description below. That's going to include our Patreon, where at $1 or $3 a month goes a long way to help supporting our giveaways. And we have a brand new giveaway next week, guys. That's for everyone to enter, a drawing for a free figure shipped and sealed at my expense. But yeah, thanks, guys. You know the spiel. Just check out all those great links. Join us on Facebook and our community there. Check us out on Twitter. We're very active. But yeah, let's get right into it, guys. This is me just chatting, kind of casual this week. Kind of just a subject I wanted to talk about for a little while now. And that's the figures that, really inspired us, that we remember throughout the years. And even ones to this day or more recently that we just think are so phenomenal that they're not going to be topped anytime soon. And there's some, it expands really all generations. First one we think about, when we think of G1, automatically, which figure do you think about? Well, it's only one of a few. Excuse me. It's the G1 Optimus Prime, which constantly gets reissues to this day. I think you can find the Walmart Retro one now. I saw it on eBay or Amazon for like $60, so that's a great deal. But yeah, this is a great figure. It's a timeless figure. Yes, he's a bit of a parts former. Yes, the mold has dated. Of course it's dated, but it's still so legendary, so iconic that, you're really not ashamed to own a version of this mold to this day. And there's the aforementioned Jetfire. This is still a great figure that holds up. I remember I have a buddy of mine that his older brother owned Jetfire, and it's just such a phenomenal figure. Came with all that armor, such a legendary piece, and all those in this G1 category. But some other figures that we can think of within G1 that were so legendary were any of the Dinobots, figures like Power Master Optimus, which is one I owned and I loved as a kid. And it spans generations. Of course, it's had a couple reissues. It actually, in my opinion, needs another one. But that Apex armor was never included in the Western releases of Power Master Optimus. Of course, that's entirely different character than the original Optimus in Japan in the East. That's Genrai or Jinrai, however you pronounce it. But either way, the figure was phenomenal. But moving on, if you look at the Generation 2, we've never had a Megatron like the G2 Megatron, and he started that tradition of Megatron being a tank. Since that time, he really hasn't gone back many times until you reach Classics. Or Chug, and even then he went back and forth, and now he's back to just being a tank. But G2 Meg started that, and it was a great figure. This is one that I also owned when it was originally released. Now, it was a great figure, but it was a bit of a brick, but it was still very much iconic, and it had those great sound effects. But, going a little further along, we see the G2 Laser Prime, which was a figure years ahead of its time, in my opinion. Which is why it was reused into the RID Scourge a few years later. It had this great articulation. It was sturdy. I mean, its articulation is still okay by today's standards. Hinge and swivel, ratcheted thighs, knee joints, elbows, shoulder rotation. I mean, this thing had a lot for its day. But it had lights and sounds. The RID Scourge had chrome. I mean, it was such a phenomenal, one of the best Transformers ever designed and produced at retail, in my opinion, was the G2 Laser Prime. Such a phenomenal figure. But then we had trends reset entirely when you get into the Classics era. As soon as Classics released, and that first wave, where you had Starscream, Astrotrain, Grimlock, Hot Rod, it just reminded everyone so much of these great that we can get really good G1 style figures again. And everybody loved them. And this was right before the 2007 movie released. But even after it did, they continued that in the Chug line. And of course, eventually, that Thrilling 30s Generation Springer was released, which is another legendarily iconic figure based on that Nick Roche design from Last Stand of the Wreckers. And this was a great design. It still holds up. This figure still holds up to this day. So I consider it part of those generational figures that I'm talking about. And there's tons of them. And which ones, guys, really stand out to you as defining generations? Let's get a commentary going. Let's talk about it here in the comments below. But let's move along, guys. This week's poll results and the news. Check out the poll results. And last week we asked the question, which line in franchise history had the coolest packaging? And 143 Transformer fans participated in this one. And if you did, I appreciate it, guys. And a whopping 60%, that's over half, the majority, chose G1, of course. Now, YouTube only allows me to list 4 lines in any poll, or 4 results in any poll I run here. But of course, we know that there's dozens of lines in the franchise's history. But animated was actually in last place amongst those mentioned. But by far and large, I agree with you. The G1 packaging, they just need to bring it back for good. Quit playing games. You can't beat it. It never will be beat. It's the most nostalgic. It had the coolest, and that's something that one of the participants actually commented on, is the tech specs. Just the fact they were characterizing, you had their function, you had their motto, you had a bit of writing about it. It got you hyped up for the figure. It told you who that guy was and everything about that guy. Those great Bob Budiansky write-ups. It's just great. And they should really return to that style packaging, but also that style of presenting Transformers characters. But of course they came with the tech specs, they came with the robot points, they came with the checklists. I mean, it was just a great, great thing they got. If it wasn't broken, they shouldn't have fixed it, and they should go back to it. That's my opinion on that. And of course, the Transformer fans, the majority of you guys agree with me. But let's move right along to this week's news. Well, of course, we have that Twitter official Takara tease in silhouette of the Studio Series 86 Megatron and the Transformers 1 Starscream and Alita. But as far as the Megs goes, and I've stated this a little bit in the short I did yesterday, there are some issues I have with just the figure. Just its silhouette. If we look at this image here, we can see some of the rounded bits on his legs. We can see the more boxed off indentations in the top of the chest. We can see the boxy forearms. These things, just by silhouette, give away the fact he's a tank. That don't make him as accurate as to really the screen, or as Romulus for that matter.
What am I supposed to do?
People gripe about Romulus's size. You can alter Romulus's ankles to make him the height of Studio Series 86 Optimus. But it's not Romulus that's out of scale, in my opinion. It still remains of the opinion that 86 Optimus is the one that's out of scale with the entire main line. Now, it's all subjective, and it's fine if you enjoy that figure. I want you to enjoy the figure. And I hope the 86 Megs is fantastic. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just showing you my issues with the figure. I just don't think, from silhouette alone, and from what I've seen of the arm reveals so far, that it's going to be perfectly screen accurate. That's my opinion. Let me know in the comments what you think. But moving on, we also have the first trailer from Transformers Cyber World is now available to view via Transformers official YouTube channel. And that series is going to premiere July 12th. It looks fun, if not for younger fans. We also have the first look at the Swapticons Nemesis Prime and Clinch 2-pack. And I don't know what they're trying to do here, guys. Maybe one of you can explain it to me. I mean, you combine them, but they don't really transform into robots. I don't know what they're doing here. But if it's for you, if you like it, it's something to look forward to. We also have a new DNA Design DK38 upgrade kit for Legacy Menasor that was revealed. And it's similar to the first kit, but this one has a gold sword, a sticker sheet, recolored thighs. I think it looks a little more accurate, a little more striking. Of course, those DNA kits are expensive if you don't get them right when they're released. I think they go up. But yeah, this one looks good. Let me know what you guys think. That's going to be it for this week, guys. I'm a little bit beat from work. We're going to have a longer one next week, and we're going to have that new giveaway. But thank you guys so much for listening. God bless, and to all are one. This podcast is made possible thanks to the support of listeners like you. Thank you.